Well, here we are now, 500 kilometers in on the NT. My observations so far. Now, I had a 2024 NT1100 DCT and I put 11,000 kilometers on it, and I've upgraded to the 2025 with the electronic suspension. And there are some differences, so we'll pop into that now. For me, I think they're all positive. First off, if you haven't tried a DCT, at least get a test ride on one before you shoot it down. I initially didn't want a DCT, I wanted a manual, but when I went to get a test ride, they only had a DCT in stock. And when I rode it, and considering what I'm going to use the bike for, it just made sense to me. And I said, after a year of ownership of the previous model, loved it. This one is so much better. The DCT, now that it's got an inertial measurement unit, the feel from the throttle response is much better. There's not that jerkiness there. It's nearly instant. The changes are so much smoother. You barely notice them. And even in the D mode, which on the previous model I used once just to see what it was like, and it went up to six gear so quick. You're doing like 15-20 kilometers an hour and it's already in 6th gear, and I didn't like it. This new mode, I've actually ridden it. I ride it in D a little bit more now, especially in around town, and then I use mostly S1 on this model. On the previous one would be an S2. I think S2 and 3 now, they're holding gears a good bit longer than I said. I'm only 500 kilometers in, I'm still breaking it in, so I haven't kind of explored those, but S1 feels more like what S2 was. But then, yourself, just use the paddles up and down the gears, and it's fine. The electronic suspension is a revelation, anyway, for me. In and of itself, it's much better than the previous model, which I think was the only real sort of downside of the previous one, especially because I ride 2 up and most of the time my wife comes with me. And on this one now, the change, the suspension alone is just it's so much plusher. It soaks up the bump so much better, and then you have it changes depending what mode you're in. So if you're in tour, it's giving you sort of a hard setting. The default for urban is a softer setting, and rain is softer again. And key into that you get softer throttle response in each one. I think you've got the same amount of power in each mode, it's how it comes in. And I think I will end up tweaking one of the user modes. Like in the year of ownership of the previous model, I didn't really see the point in tweaking the user modes, because there wasn't really that much to change in it. You could engine braking maybe, and traction control, which I don't really mess around with. I've tried it with lower engine braking, and I kind of like the way this one works. So, but I can see myself playing around with one of the user modes here with different with different suspension settings, because within the user setting you can actually go into those parameters and move them again within a range, so you can actually get the suspension exactly where you want it. So that'll be something to play around with. Fit and finish on the bike, it's typical Honda. It's really good. I think the styling has been much improved. It's kind of I suppose it's someone like it, some won't like it, but they've definitely improved the styling of it. Some of the lines have been here. So look, we'll have a nosy. Tell you what I'm talking about. So if you look at the front of the bike here, it looks very similar to the last model, but they've flared it out on the sides here. You can see kind of around here, just a little nicer. And these sort of little gills on the side here are much more stylized. And the fact that the indicators are now actually built into the headlights, it's much nicer. I think the rest of the bike is kind of much the same. But I mean, it's subdued styling. It's Honda Tourer after all. It's never going to be, out there like an XR or a you know, or a Ducati. It is, but we enjoy it. Seats, they're okay. I think I will be punting for the comfort seats. I didn't have them on the last model, and I think that's probably the other thing we've noticed, that on longer spins you do need that bit of comfort. The dash, that's all the same. The switch gear, you know, it's like NASA over here, but when you own one and you're riding a lot, you know exactly which buttons that you're going to be using. I'll go on the other side. When you're actually on the bike, you know, there's very little of the switches that you're using. Takes a little bit of time getting used to where the indicator is, but you know, it is what it is. These are just for your modes up and down, and you can go in between the modes, or in between the settings in here. The other ones are just for your music and entertainment stuff, so if you're not using those, it's not a major issue. And then again, they can all be done with one finger as you're riding along. Just this one just pop between the screen. Let me show you. It's still slow to start up on the main screen. Now I could turn the bike on right away, straight away now. It doesn't stop you driving. It's just, you know, what I tend to do is turn the bike on and then start putting my gloves on. And by the time I've got my gloves on, the dash is ready to go. So there we are. I can't show you the screen because I haven't got the phone connected. But this button here flicks between that screen and your Android Auto, and then you can function here for when you're doing your heated grips and the volume, things like that. Pillion has said, my wife said the seat's quite comfortable. We will be going with the comfort seats eventually. The boxes are bigger. There's also, so when you pop this up and then pull it again to release it, the little springs, the bag's out. It could come with the bags, but the bag's out of it at the minute. I think this is new. I don't recall this on the last one, so when you have a helmet or anything in there, and the helmet will fit, you can hold it in place with this bag, and when the bag is in, that'll hold it in, so when you pop it open, you don't worry about stuff falling out. So I think that's the job. Just push it closed. And yeah, I have to say, I like it. I liked it so much I bought another one. Yeah, so I can recommend them, as they say. I mean, we're 500 kilometers in, and I'm liking it. DCT is much better with the IMU. It changes much smoother. It doesn't try to change mid corner anymore, which it did do with me a previous time. But I mean, never unsettled the bike, never threw it out of shape. But it sounded weird. You could hear it changing. You could feel it through the pegs and stuff, but it never unsettled the bike. But it doesn't do it hasn't done that now because with the IMU it knows a bit better. And overall, yeah, much better. The screen, the windscreen, that's the only sort of point that is actually isn't as good as a previous model. Let's flick the phone. So that's it in its highest setting. So when I'm on the bike, I'm getting a lot of wind coming in just above here. The previous screen was probably, was a good bit taller and took all the wind off. So I'm deciding whether to go with, let's say, a deflector to stick on the top of the screen there, which I'll probably do first, and then I'll wait and see what aftermarket screens come through. These little deflectors down here do deflect a lot more wind off your hands, and they're much more substantial than the previous models. So overall the mechanism is much easier as well. So you just pull it out, there you go, up through your whole range of movement. I think with a slightly taller screen, whether that be with the extension or whether it's an aftermarket screen, I think that would be the only negative I have on it so far. So there we go, 2025 DCT ES. I like the gold. I initially, when I saw the photos, wanted a blue one. I think matte ash, as they call it, is much nicer. The black one, not bad, but you just don't, you know, you don't. The styling kind of blends in the black, I found. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for taking the time. If you watch this, give us an old like, as they say. And I'll throw up some more once I've done had the first service done after 1,000 kilometers. Cheers.